The chamber was larger than any cathedral on Earth. It stretched upward into darkness, its walls made of living crystal that pulsed with soft blue light. Thousands of seats rose in circular tiers, filled with creatures that defied human imagination. Some had wings. Others floated in bubbles of liquid. A few existed as nothing more than clouds of glowing particles. Ambassador Diana Voss stood alone in the center of it all. She was 51 years old. Her gray suit was simple. Her hands were steady. Around her, representatives from 800 alien civilizations watched in complete silence. The weight of their attention pressed down like a physical force. This was the Galactic Council, the supreme authority over 10,000 worlds. The body that had ruled the stars for 12,000 years before humans learned to make fire, and they had summoned humanity to answer for its crimes. High, Arbiter Molther rose from his seat at the highest tier. He was 12 feet tall, his body covered in plates of black stone, his eyes burning like orange flames. When he spoke, his voice filled every corner of the massive chamber. Humanity stands accused of the destruction of 14 Kelzari warships. 2,000 Kelzari soldiers, dead. Diana did not move. She did not blink. How does the human species answer these charges? The chamber waited. 800 species. Thousands of representatives. All of them expecting the small, fragile human to beg for mercy. Diana raised her chin slightly. We answer with a question, High Arbiter. A ripple of surprise moved through the audience. No one questioned the High Arbiter. No one. A question? Molther's stone face showed something that might have been amusement. You stand before the judgment of the galaxy, and you wish to ask questions? Just one. Diana's voice carried clearly through the enormous space. I would like the Council to explain why the Kelzari were allowed to attack human civilians in the first place. Silence. Then chaos. The Kelzari delegation erupted from their seats. They were tall and pale, with long limbs and faces that seemed frozen in permanent contempt. Their leader, Lord Harvin, pointed one bony finger at Diana. This is an outrage. The humans were harboring escaped property. We had every right under compact law to retrieve what was ours. Property. Diana let the word hang in the air. Tell me, Lord Harvin, what property would that be? She pressed a button on a small device in her hand. Suddenly, the air above the chamber filled with holographic images. Human faces. Men, women, children. Thousands of them. These people fled from Kelzari space 6 months ago, Diana said. They had lived under Kelzari rule for 3 generations. Classified as a servitor species. Their children taken for labor camps. Their elderly left to die when they could no longer work. The images shifted. Now they showed a ship, a civilian vessel called the Northern Star, unarmed, unprotected. The Kelzari fleet intercepted this ship in neutral space. They demanded that 40,000 human beings surrender themselves to slavery. When the captain refused, they opened fire. More images. The Northern Star torn apart. Bodies floating in the vacuum of space. 512 people died in the first volley. 208 of them were children. Lord Harvin laughed. It was a cold, brittle sound. They were servitors, resources. Their lives had no legal value under compact law. Their lives, Diana said quietly, had value to us. She pressed another button. The holographic display changed again. Now it showed a single warship. Human design. The name painted on its hull read, E-Ses Fury. This is the ship that responded to the distress call from the Northern Star, Diana continued. One vessel, against 14 Kelzari destroyers. Lord Harvin sneered. One ship. We should have destroyed it in minutes. Yes, Diana agreed. You should have. The recording began to play. The council watched as the Issa Fury engaged the Kelzari fleet. It moved differently than any ship they had ever seen. Faster, more agile. Its weapons fired in patterns that seemed impossible, striking multiple targets simultaneously in 3 minutes and 42 seconds. 14 Kelzari warships became clouds of debris. The chamber fell absolutely silent. Captain Thomas Reed sent a message to Earth Command before the battle, Diana said. With the Council's permission, I would like to play it. She did not wait for permission. Captain Reed's voice filled the chamber. He sounded calm, almost gentle. Command, this is the Fury. I have arrived at the Northern Star's position. 14 Kelzari vessels. They have killed over 500 civilians, including children. I am going to engage. A pause. I know our policy has always been to show mercy, to take prisoners, to demonstrate that humanity is civilized. Another pause. But there are children's bodies floating outside my window, and I find that I am not feeling very civilized today. The recording ended. High Arbiter Molther stared down at Diana. For the first time in centuries, he seemed uncertain. You destroyed an entire fleet, he said slowly. Over servitors. We destroyed an entire fleet over our people. Diana met his burning orange eyes without flinching. The Kelzari believed that because we show kindness, we are weak. They believed that because we offer mercy to the defeated, we cannot fight. They believed that our compassion was a flaw. She took one step forward. They were wrong. The council chamber erupted into noise. Species shouted at each other. Some demanded humanity's punishment. Others seemed shaken, uncertain. Lord Harvin was screaming something about sanctions, about military action, about teaching humans their place. Diana waited until the noise died down. Then she pulled out a small data chip and held it up for all to see. This contains the coordinates of 6 Kelzari military installations along our border. Installations that were used to plan and launch the attack on the Northern Star. She smiled. It was not a warm smile. In exactly 48 hours, those installations will no longer exist. This is not a threat. This is not a negotiation. This is a notification. The chamber exploded again. But Diana simply stood there, calm and patient, while 800 species realized something important. They had underestimated humanity. They had looked at human kindness and seen weakness. They had looked at human mercy and seen cowardice. They had assumed that a species capable of love could not also be capable of war. Now they understood their mistake. Diana raised her voice one final time. Humanity wants peace. We came to the stars hoping to find friends. But we will not allow our compassion to be exploited. We will not watch our children die and do nothing. And we will not beg for justice from a council that classifies human beings as property. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of species she could barely comprehend. The Kelzari taught us that mercy can be mistaken for weakness. Very well, we have learned. Now the question is simple. Does the Galactic Council want humanity as a friend? Or would you prefer to learn the same lesson the Kelzari learned? She paused. Choose carefully. You only get one chance. And in that moment, standing alone against the judgment of the galaxy, Ambassador Diana Voss showed the universe what humanity truly was. Not weak. Not strong. Something far more dangerous. Adaptable. 12 days had passed since Ambassador Diana Voss stood before the Galactic Council. 12 days since humanity declared that its compassion would no longer be mistaken for weakness. The galaxy had not stopped talking about it. On Earth, Director Marcus Webb sat in the underground command center beneath Geneva. Screens covered every wall, showing troop movements, ship positions, and diplomatic communications from 100 worlds. The Kelzari were mobilizing. Their full fleet numbered over 8,000 warships. Humanity had less than 300. The numbers were not encouraging. "Sir?" A young officer approached his desk. "The Kelzari ambassador has demanded another meeting. He says they will accept nothing less than complete surrender." Marcus did not look up from his reports. "Tell him we respectfully decline." "Sir, they outnumber us 25 to 1. "Yes." Marcus finally raised his eyes. "I know." He stood and walked to the largest screen, which showed a map of known space. Human territory was a small blue dot near the edge. Kelzari space spread across it like a red stain, but Marcus was not looking at the Kelzari. He was looking at something else. Something that officially did not exist. "Contact Admiral Frost," he said quietly. "Tell her it is time to wake up the Black Fleet." 3,000 light-years away, Captain Thomas Reed walked the corridors of the ESS Fury. His ship had become famous. His crew had become legends. But none of them felt like heroes. Thomas stopped at a small window and stared out at the stars. In the reflection, he could see his own face. He looked older than his 43 years. The battle against the Kelzari had taken something from him. Something he was not sure he could get back. Captain. His first officer, Lieutenant Amara Cole, appeared beside him. "We have received new orders." Thomas took the datapad from her hand. As he read, his expression grew darker. "They want us to go behind enemy lines, alone." Amara nodded. "Intelligence suggests the Kelzari are not acting alone. Someone else is pulling their strings. Command wants us to find out who." Thomas looked at his ship's crew, men and women who had followed him into impossible odds and survived. He was about to ask them to do it again. "Prepare for departure," he said. "And Amara? Make sure everyone writes. Letters home, just in case." Meanwhile, Ambassador Voss had not returned to Earth. She remained at the Council headquarters, working through back channels, building alliances that the galaxy could not see. Not all aliens hated humanity. Some admired what the Fury had done. Others feared it. And a few, a very few, understood something that most species had forgotten. The galaxy was not as it seemed. Kelzari scholar named Tova had contacted Diana 3 days ago. She was old, her pale skin wrinkled, her eyes tired. But her mind was sharp. "You must understand," Tova said during their secret meeting. "The attack on your ship was not Lord Harvin's idea. He is ambitious, but not stupid. Someone convinced him that humanity would not fight back." Diana leaned forward. "Who? I do not know. But I have heard whispers. Old stories that scholars like me have collected for centuries." Tova's voice dropped to barely a whisper. "They speak of beings older than the Council. Older than any civilization we know. They call themselves the Architects." "Architects of what?" Tova's eyes held genuine fear. "Of war. They find young species with potential. They manipulate them into conflict. And then they harvest whatever remains." Diana felt a chill run down her spine. "Harvest how?" "I do not know. But every great war in galactic history, every civilization that rose and fell, they all share one thing. At the end, when the fighting stopped, something was different. Something was missing." Tova grabbed Diana's hand. "Your species is different. You fight, but you also love. You destroy, but you also create. The Architects have never seen anything like humanity before. And I think that is why they chose you. Chose us for what?" But Tova had no answer. Back on Earth, Director Webb received a message that made his blood run cold. Intelligence analysts had intercepted communications between the Kelzari High Command and an unknown source. The source was providing the Kelzari with information about human defenses, ship positions, and strategic weaknesses. Someone was feeding. The enemy everything they needed to destroy humanity, and the transmissions were coming from inside the Galactic Council itself. Webb immediately contacted Ambassador Voss. Diana, we have a problem. There is a traitor at the council. Someone is helping the Kelzari. Diana closed her eyes. I know. I have been investigating. The information goes deeper than you think, Marcus. This is not just about the Kelzari. Someone is manipulating this entire conflict. They want humanity to go to war. Why? Because war is what they need. They have been doing this for millions of years. Starting conflicts, feeding hatred, and then... Diana paused. Then something terrible happens. I do not have all the answers yet, but I know one thing. If we fight the Kelzari the way they expect us to fight, we will lose. Not just the war, everything. Marcus stared at the screen. Then what do? We do what humanity does best. Diana's voice hardened. We adapt. We find out who is really pulling the strings. And then we show them that they picked the wrong species to manipulate. The Fury crossed into Kelzari space under cover of darkness, its stealth systems engaged, its crew silent. Thomas watched the sensor displays as enemy patrol ships passed within 1,000 kilometers, completely unaware of the human vessel hiding in their shadow. Captain, Amara reported, we are detecting unusual energy signatures ahead. They do not match any known Kelzari technology. Thomas studied the readings. She was right. Whatever was out there, it was not Kelzari. Take us in closer. Carefully. The Fury crept forward, moving like a predator stalking prey. And then they saw it. Floating in the darkness of space was a ship unlike anything Thomas had ever seen. It was massive, at least 10 times the size of the Fury. Its hull was black, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Strange symbols covered its surface, glowing with faint purple light. What is that? Amara whispered. Before Thomas could answer, the ship moved. Not like a vessel traveling through space. It simply shifted, as if reality itself had bent to accommodate it. And then a voice filled the Fury's bridge. It spoke in perfect English, though no communication channel was open. Human vessel, we have been waiting for you. Thomas's hand moved to the weapons console. Who are you? We are the ones who built the stage upon which your species now performs. We are the ones who chose you for this role, and we are very, very interested to see what you do next. The transmission ended. Thomas stood frozen, his mind racing. They had found the architects. Or perhaps the architects had found them. Either way, nothing would ever be the same. He opened a channel to Earth Command. Director Webb, this is Captain Reed. We have made contact with something. Something old. And I think we are in a lot more trouble than we realized. The war for survival had just become something much bigger. And humanity was standing at the center of it all. The Fury drifted in silence. Its crew had not moved for several minutes after the mysterious transmission ended. The massive black ship still floated before them, its purple symbols pulsing with an almost hypnotic rhythm. Captain Thomas Reddy finally found his voice. Amara, are we still recording? Yes, Captain. Every sensor, every reading. Earth Command is receiving everything. Good. Thomas straightened in his chair. Because I have a feeling we are about to learn something important. The black ship spoke again, its voice appearing directly in their minds rather than through any speaker. You are curious. That is good. Curiosity is one of the traits we value most in your species. Thomas gripped his armrest. What do you want from us? Want? The voice seemed almost amused. We want what we have always wanted, human. We want to watch you grow, to struggle, to fight. Your species produces something we need, something we cannot create ourselves. What is that? A long pause. Then the answer came. Suffering. hope, fear, determination. The emotions your kind produces during conflict are unlike anything we have encountered in 3 billion years. When you fight, when you struggle against impossible odds, you generate energy. Pure, beautiful energy. And we harvest it. Thomas felt sick. You start wars. You make civilizations destroy each other, just to feed on their pain. We guide them toward their potential. Conflict reveals truth. It separates the strong from the weak, the worthy from the worthless. Every great civilization in this galaxy was forged in the fires we lit. And when the fires burn out, when the civilizations collapse, then we move on. There are always more species, more worlds, more wars to cultivate. The voice grew warmer, almost friendly. But you, humanity, you are special. You fight with fury, but you fight for each other. You destroy without mercy, yet you weep for your enemies. You are a contradiction, a puzzle. We have been watching you for a very long time. Thomas's mind raced. 3 billion years. These beings had been manipulating the galaxy for 3 billion years. Every war, every conflict, every civilization that rose and fell, all of it was orchestrated. And now they had chosen humanity. What happens if we refuse to play your game? Thomas asked. The voice laughed. It was a terrible sound, echoing through dimensions that human minds could barely comprehend. Refuse? Human, you cannot refuse. The game has already begun. The Kalzari are mobilizing 8,000 ships against your world. Your species will fight or die. Either way, we will watch. Either way, we will feed. The black ship began to move, sliding away into the darkness. But we will give you a gift. Captain Thomas read, "Consider it a reward for your curiosity." Information flooded the Fury's computer systems. Star charts, fleet positions, the location of every Kelzari military installation in the sector. Everything humanity needed to survive the coming war. Why? Thomas demanded. Why help us? Because the longer you survive, the more you will suffer. The more you will hope. The more you will fight. The voice faded. And the more delicious your eventual defeat will be. The black ship vanished, folding away into nothingness. Thomas sat in the silence of his bridge, staring at the information now displayed on his screens. The architects had given humanity a weapon. But at what cost, Captain? Amara's voice was shaky. What do we do? Thomas closed his eyes. When he opened them again, something had changed in his expression. We do exactly what they do not expect. We survive. We win. And then we come for them. On Earth, Director Webb and his staff watched the Fury's recordings in stunned silence. The existence of the architects changed everything. This was no longer a war between humanity and the Kelzari. This was a fight against beings who had manipulated the entire galaxy for billions of years. Ambassador Voss joined the meeting via secure transmission from the Council headquarters. Her face was pale but determined. I have shown Tova's evidence to several neutral species, she reported. Some believe us. Most do not. But there is a growing faction that suspects something is wrong with the galaxy. Something they cannot explain. Can we build an alliance? Webb asked. Maybe, but not in time to stop the Kelzari. Their fleet launches in 72 hours. Webb turned to another screen where Admiral Helena Frost waited. She was a thin woman with silver hair and eyes like chips of ice. For 30 years, she had commanded humanity's most secret military force. Admiral, the Black Fleet, is it ready? Frost nodded slowly. Ready is a relative term, Director. We have 400 ships hidden in various locations throughout the solar system. They are equipped with weapons that the architects have never seen. Weapons we developed specifically because we always suspected something was watching. You knew about the architects? Not specifically. But humanity has always been paranoid. We survived by assuming the worst. A thin smile crossed her face. For once, our paranoia has paid off. The plan came together quickly. Captain Reed and the Fury would use the intelligence from the architects to locate Kelzari weaknesses. Admiral Frost would position the Black Fleet for a surprise attack. Ambassador Voss would continue building support among the Council species. But there was a problem no one wanted to discuss. Even with the Black Fleet, humanity was still outnumbered. Even with surprise on their side, the Kelzari could overwhelm them through sheer numbers. To win this war, humanity needed something more. They needed the Kelzari to doubt themselves. We need to change the story, Voss said during a late-night strategy session. Right now, the Kelzari believe they are fighting a minor species that got lucky once. They are angry, but they are confident. We need to destroy that confidence. How? Webb asked. By showing them what we showed the Council. By making them understand that attacking humanity was the worst mistake they ever made. Voss leaned forward. We need a demonstration. Something so devastating that it makes the entire Kelzari Empire question whether this war is worth fighting. Captain Reed's voice came through the communication system. The Fury had returned to friendly space, carrying its precious cargo of intelligence. I have a suggestion, he said. The architects gave us the location of the Kelzari command station. It orbits their homeworld. It is the heart of their military operations. If we destroyed it, their entire war effort would collapse. Webb shook his head. The station is surrounded by 1,000 ships. We cannot get anywhere near it. We can if we do not try to fight our way through. Reed's eyes were steady. Give me 5 ships. Volunteers only. We will not survive, but we will make sure the galaxy never forgets what humanity is capable of. Silence filled the room. No. Admiral Frost's voice was firm. I will not send people on a suicide mission. Not when there is another way. She pulled up a tactical display. It showed a prototype weapon, something that had never been used in combat. We call it the Nova Lance. It fires a beam of compressed stellar energy. One shot can destroy a small moon. We have 3 of them, mounted on ships that can reach Kelzari space in less than 12 hours. Webb stared at the display. Why did you not mention this before? Because using it will change everything. Once the galaxy sees what humanity can do, they will never look at us the same way again. We will not be the compassionate species anymore. We will be the species that can destroy worlds. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what Frost was saying. Using the Nova Lance would save lives. But it would also prove that humanity's capacity for destruction was far greater than anyone had imagined. Finally, Ambassador Voss spoke. The architects expect us to fight a conventional war. They expect us to suffer and struggle while they watch. But what if we refuse to follow their script? What if we end this war so quickly and so decisively that they do not get what they want? She looked around at the others. We did not choose to be compassionate because we are weak. We chose it because we are strong enough to afford kindness. But kindness has limits, and those limits have been reached. Director Webb made the decision. Admiral Frost, deploy the Nova Lance. Target the Kelzari command station. 12 hours later, the Kelzari learned what humanity was truly capable of. And the architects, watching from the darkness between stars, felt something they had not experienced in 3 billion years. Uncertainty. The Kelzari command station had existed for 3,000 years. It was a symbol of their empire's power, a fortress that had never been conquered. Surrounded by 1,000 warships at all times, It ceased to exist in zero point 0.7 seconds. The Nova, lance fired from beyond sensor range. The Kelzari had no warning. One moment, their greatest military installation hung in orbit above their homeworld. The next moment, it was only light. Blinding, terrible light that could be seen from the planet's surface. Across the galaxy, species watched the recordings in horror. The beam of energy had punched through shields, armor, and a kilometer of reinforced hull like they were made of paper. The command station simply evaporated, along with every ship within 10,000 kilometers. 42,000 Kelzari died in an instant dot, and humanity sent a message to every world in the galaxy. We did not want this war. We came to the stars seeking friends, not enemies. But when our children were murdered, when our people were enslaved, when our compassion was called weakness, we learned. We adapted. We responded. The message was delivered by Ambassador Diana Voss, her face calm, her voice steady. The Kelzari believed they could attack human civilians without consequence. They were wrong. The command station was a military target. We gave no warning because no warning was given to the Northern Star. We showed no mercy because no mercy was shown to our children. She paused, letting her words sink in. Humanity remains open to peace. We will negotiate with any species willing to treat us as equals. But we will not be bullied. We will not be enslaved. And we will not watch our people die while the galaxy debates whether our lives have value. The transmission ended. On the Kelzari homeworld, chaos erupted. Lord Harvin, who had demanded war so confidently, now faced questions from his own government. How had the humans developed such a weapon? How had they delivered it without detection? What else were they hiding? But in the shadows of the Kelzari capital, other forces were moving. Scholar Tova had risked everything to bring Ambassador Voss information about the architects. Now she risked even more by contacting the moderate faction within her own government. These were Kelzari, who had opposed the war from the beginning, who had warned that humanity was not what they seemed. The war must end. Tova told General Kovan, a respected military commander who had seen too many soldiers die. The architects are using us, both our species. They want this conflict to continue forever. Kovan studied the evidence Tova had gathered. Star charts showing architect manipulation. Communications intercepts proving that outside forces had pushed for the attack on the Northern Star. Records of similar manipulations in dozens of wars throughout galactic history. Even if this is true, Kovan said slowly, how do we stop it? Lord Harvin controls the government. He will never accept peace. Tova's eyes hardened. Then Lord Harvin must be removed. The coup happened quietly. No explosions, no battles in the streets. General Kovan simply walked into Lord Harvin's office with a dozen loyal soldiers and informed him that his leadership was no longer required. Harvin screamed about treason. He promised revenge. But when he reached for his weapon, Kovan's soldiers did not hesitate. The galaxy's first human-Kelzari alliance was born in blood. But it was born nonetheless. Ambassador Voss received the news aboard, a diplomatic shuttle heading back to Earth. For the first time in weeks, she allowed herself to smile. General Kovan wishes to meet, her aide reported. He is offering complete military cooperation against the architects. He says the Kelzari have been manipulated long enough. Arrange the meeting. And contact Director Webb. Tell him we finally have some good news. But the architects were not finished. Captain Thomas, Reed, and the Fury were patrolling the border between human and Kelzari space when their sensors detected something impossible. A fleet of ships emerging from nowhere, bearing no recognizable markings. The hollow fleet had arrived. These were not living vessels. Their crews were not flesh and blood. They were constructs, Machines built by the architects to do their bidding when manipulation alone was not enough. There were 300 of them, and they were heading directly for Earth. All ships, this is Captain Reed. Thomas's voice was calm, despite the terror gripping his chest. We have hostile contacts. Unknown design. Possibly architect origin. They are moving toward Sol System at maximum speed. The response came from Admiral Frost aboard the ESS Vanguard, flagship of the Black Fleet. Understood, Captain. We are moving to intercept. All available forces converge on the following coordinates. Thomas watched his tactical display as humanity's secret fleet emerged from hiding. 400 ships, each one equipped with weapons designed to fight enemies that conventional technology could not touch. But the Hollow Fleet was not conventional. These ships moved like nothing Thomas had ever seen. They did not travel through space. They shifted through it, appearing and disappearing at will, their weapons firing from angles that should have been impossible. The battle was brutal. Human ships died by the dozen in the first hour, but they took hollow ships with them. Admiral Frost's tactics were brilliant, using the Black Fleet's unusual capabilities to exploit weaknesses in the architect constructs. And then something unexpected happened. Calzari ships appeared on the edge of the battle, not attacking humanity, but joining them. General Coven had sent every vessel he could spare. Human fleet, this is General Coven. The architects have enslaved our galaxy for too long. Today, we fight together. Thomas felt tears in his eyes. An hour ago, these ships were his enemies. Now they were dying beside him against a common threat. The combined fleet pushed back. Slowly at first, then faster. The hollow ships began to falter. Whatever intelligence controlled them had not expected resistance on this scale, had not expected two species, so recently at war, to unite so quickly. Why? But the architects had one more card to play. A transmission flooded every communication channel in the system. The voice was the same one Thomas had heard aboard the Fury. Ancient, inhuman, amused. Impressive, humans. Truly impressive. You have exceeded our expectations in every way. Thomas gripped his armrest. Show yourself. Face us directly instead of hiding behind your puppets. Patience. We will meet soon enough. But first, a gift. The hollow ships stopped fighting. They simply froze, hanging motionless in space. We release these vessels to you. Study them. Learn from them. Use them against us if you can. The voice grew deeper. We have decided that humanity deserves a real challenge. The Kelzari were merely practice. What comes next will be the true test. The transmission ended. The remaining hollow ships began to disintegrate, falling apart into components that humanity could analyze and reverse engineer. Thomas stared at the debris field. They are giving us their technology. Why? Admiral Frost's voice came through the communication system. Her tone was grim. Because they want a real fight. They have been bored, playing with species they can manipulate. But we surprised them. We united with our enemies. We used weapons they had not predicted. And now they want to see what we can really do. She paused. We have won this battle. But the war is just beginning. On Earth, Director Webb received the reports from the front. The Hollow Fleet was destroyed. The Kelzari were now allies instead of enemies. And humanity had somehow acquired technology that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. But Webb felt no relief. Only dread. The architects were not defeated. They were not even angry. They were entertained. And that was far more terrifying. Ambassador Vos returned to the Galactic Council chamber 3 days later. This time, she did not come alone. General Coven stood beside her. And behind them, representatives from 17 other species who had chosen to join humanity's alliance. The message was clear. The galaxy was changing. The old rules no longer applied. And somewhere, in the darkness between stars, the architects watched with growing interest. The children they had chosen to torment had become something unexpected. They had become a threat. Months had passed since the Battle of the Hollow. Fleet, 6 months of preparation. 6 months of building an alliance that the galaxy had never seen. 23 species now stood united against the architects, sharing technology, combining fleets, and training together for the confrontation everyone knew was coming. Architects had been silent, watching, waiting. Then they sent their message. Children of the galaxy, you have impressed us. You have united against us. You have prepared your weapons and trained your soldiers. Now we will give you what you desire. A final battle. Winner takes all. Coordinates followed. A location at the edge of known space. A dead star surrounded by frozen planets. Come to us in 14 days. Bring everything you have. We promise to do the same. Director Marcus Webb studied the message in the command center beneath Geneva. Around him stood the leaders of humanity's war effort. Admiral Helena Frost, Captain Thomas Reed, now promoted to Commodore, Ambassador Diana Voss, and General Coven, representing the Kelzari. It is a trap, Coven said flatly. They want us gathered in one place so they can destroy us all. Perhaps. Voss crossed her arms. But what choice do we have? If we do not go, they will come to us. At least this way, we control the timing. Reed spoke next. Our combined fleet numbers over 3,000 ships. We have weapons based on architect technology. We have crews who have trained for exactly this kind of battle. He paused. If we are going to fight, this is our best chance. Webb nodded slowly. Then we go. But not blindly. We plan for every possibility. We assume they will cheat, because they always have. The preparations began immediately. Human scientists worked day and night, analyzing the Hollow Fleet debris, improving weapons, developing new tactics. Kelzari engineers contributed their own advances. Species that had been enemies for centuries now shared secrets freely, united by a common enemy. 14 days passed in a blur of activity. And then the fleet departed. 3,200 ships from 23 species. The largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. They traveled together through the darkness of space. United by hope and fear in equal measure. At the front of the formation flew the ESS Fury, Commodore Reed's flagship. He stood on the bridge, watching the stars stream past, thinking about everything that had led to this moment. His communication officer spoke. Commodore, we are receiving a message from Ambassador Voss. Diana's face appeared on the screen. She was aboard a diplomatic vessel near the center of the fleet, coordinating between the allied species. Thomas, whatever happens today, I want you to know something. You started this. That day you destroyed the Kelzari ships to protect our people. You showed the galaxy what humanity really is. Reed shook his head. I showed them we can be killers. No, you showed them we protect our own. That is not the same thing. She smiled sadly. Stay alive out there, Thomas. We still have a lot of work to do. The communication ended. They arrived at the coordinates to find that architects waiting. Their ships defied comprehension. Vessels the size of moons, covered in symbols that hurt to look at directly. They floated around the dead star like priests around an altar, radiating power that made every sensor scream warnings. There were 12 of them. Just 12. Against 3,000, Admiral Frost opened a channel to the Allied fleet. All ships, this is Admiral Frost. Remember your training. Remember why we are here. And remember that the species watching today believed we could never stand together. She paused. Prove them wrong. A battle began with light. The architect ships fired first. Beams of energy that sliced through the Allied formation like knives through paper. Hundreds of ships died in the first seconds, their crews never knowing what hit them. But the Alliance fought back. Human Nova lances combined with Kelzari particle cannons. Ships from 23 species coordinated their attacks, overwhelming architect shields through sheer volume of fire. One of the massive vessels began to crack, its symbols flickering. The first architect ship to fall in 3 billion years exploded with the force of a supernova. The Alliance roared with triumph. But the battle was far from over. Reed drove the Fury directly at the largest architect vessel, dodging weapons fire that would have vaporized lesser ships. Behind him, a strike force of human and Kelzari vessels followed. We need to reach their command ship, Reed ordered. Intel suggests they coordinate through a central hub. If we destroy it, we might disrupt their control. Might? His tactical officer sounded skeptical. Better than definitely failing. Reed allowed himself a grim smile. Besides, dying of old age was never my plan. The strike force punched through the architect formation, losing ships with every kilometer. But they reached the central vessel, a nightmare of black metal and impossible geometry. Reed ordered all weapons to fire. The ship shuddered under the assault. Its shields flickered, then failed. And then a voice filled Reed's mind. The same voice from their first encounter. But now it sounded different. Surprised, perhaps even afraid. You actually heard us. After 3 billion years, a collection of children actually heard us. Reed pressed the attack. We are not children. We are humanity. And we do not surrender. The architect command ship began to break apart. But before it died, the voice spoke one final time. Perhaps we chose wrong. Perhaps you were never meant to be harvested. Perhaps you were meant to replace us. A pause. We will remember you, humans. When the universe ends and begins again, we will remember that you were the ones who finally made us feel fear. The command ship exploded. Without coordination, the remaining architect vessels fell into chaos. The Allied fleet pressed the advantage ruthlessly, destroying ship after ship until only debris remained. When it was over, the Fury drifted in a field of wreckage. Half the Allied fleet had been destroyed. Millions of lives from dozens of species had been lost. But they had won. 3 months later, Ambassador Voss stood before the Galactic Council for the last time. The chamber was different now. Representatives from species that had once hated each other now sat side by side. The Kelzari delegation had a human liaison officer. The tiered galleries buzzed with conversations that would have been impossible a year ago. High Arbiter Molther called the session to order. His burning orange eyes rested on Voss with something that might have been respect. Ambassador Voss, humanity has requested the floor. Diana stepped into the central circle, the same circle where she had once stood alone, accused and threatened. High Arbiter, members of the Council, 1 year ago, I came here to answer charges of aggression. Today, I come to propose something different. She activated a holographic display. It showed a new symbol, created collaboratively by designers from 100 worlds. A circle of hands reaching toward a central star. The architects believed they could manipulate us forever. They believed that conflict was our natural state, that we would always choose hatred over cooperation, war over peace. Diana looked around the chamber. They were wrong. Humanity proposes a new compact, not one based on dominance and submission, not one that classifies any species as property. A compact based on the simple idea that all thinking beings have value, that compassion is not weakness, and that the galaxy is stronger when we stand together. The chamber was silent. Then, slowly, General Coven rose from the Kelzari seats. He walked to the central circle and stood beside Diana. The Kelzari support this proposal. We have learned, painfully, that the old ways do not serve us. Humanity showed us another path. One by one, representatives from other species joined them. Some had been allied with humanity from the beginning. Others had opposed them until recently. But they all understood the same truth. The galaxy had changed. And there was no going back. High Arbiter Molther watched as the central circle filled with delegates from dozens of worlds. For the first time in his long life, he smiled. The proposal is accepted. Let the record show that today, the old compact ends. Today, a new era begins. He struck his staff against the floor. Today, the galaxy grows up. On Earth, Director Webb watched the ceremony through a live transmission. Beside him stood Commodore Reed, recently promoted to Admiral. Behind them, through the windows of the Geneva Command Center, sunlight streamed over a planet that had nearly been destroyed. "We did it," Webb said quietly. "We actually did it." Reed nodded. But his eyes were distant, focused on something beyond the celebration. The architects said something before they died. They said we might replace them someday. Webb frowned. What do you think they meant? I do not know. But I think the universe has plans for humanity that we cannot imagine yet. Reed turned to face the director. We proved that compassion is not weakness. We proved that mercy and strength can coexist. Now we have to prove something else. What? That we can be worthy of what we have become. That we can lead without becoming the thing we defeated. Reed looked back at the transmission, at the delegates from 100 worlds standing together. The architects treated the galaxy as a farm. We have to treat it as a garden. Webb considered this for a long moment. Then he nodded, and that is what we will do. And in the darkness beyond known space, in regions where light had never reached, something stirred. Not the architects. Something older. Something that had been sleeping for so long that even the architects had forgotten it existed. It had felt the battle. It had sensed the change in the galaxy's energy. And it was curious. The story of humanity. Among the stars was far from over. It was only just beginning.